All right, welcome Justin on the Zoom call. Well, we don't need to do this quite yet, because we're just gonna talk about, well, first thing I wanna do is, Luke, what is future value of money?
The value of money, when you know set time and set interest rate.
But when do you know what? That's it. Present and future.
I guess interest rate is kind of more of a guess.
Well, but future value of money means, in terms of a lump sum of money.
Like you have a certain value of money now, you want to know what it's gonna be worth in the future.
Right.
That's that amount of time and interest rate.
The future value means you wanna know what it's going to be worth in the future. So, and it is based on time and interest. The interest rate, yeah, you don't know, probably unless it's bonds or a CD where they tell you what it is. But if you're just throwing it in the market, you don't know for sure, but you can just kind of go off historical average of around 9%, kind of use that. The amount you have now. And you wanna know what it's gonna be worth in the future. Right, so you can set goals, right? You could say, okay. I need to have $175,000 by the time I'm 40. I need that so I can pay off my house 10 years earlier. So you know how much you need lump sum or how much you need to save each month. Based on interest and time to get to that amount in the future. So how does that differ then from present value? I actually think I just find present value in my second example, actually. Present value is when you know how much you need in the future. So you need to just, you have to figure out what you need today to get there. Okay, so, sorry, I'm probably confusing. Future value, you know what you have, you know how much you're saving today, and you're curious what that will look like in 20, 30 years. Present value is, you know what your goal is in the future. So now you're just need to know what you need presently to start saving for how much you need, so. The difference is important because if you like truly understand it and know how to calculate it, which I don't do the calculations. I used to, and the instructor who used to teach this class before I did used to. I mean, in today's age, you got so many online calculators, like you don't need to know the mathematical formula to do this. Nobody's whipping out a sheet of paper. Start whipping out to do the math, A is, A 1 over X times, square root of principal. Nobody's doing that. You're gonna pull out your phone, you're gonna find future value calculator, and you're gonna type in the number. You're not gonna care what that looks like. So I don't even do that anymore. I mean, he's kind of a fundamentalist, and he always telling me, you should do that, but I just feel like if you want to do that, you can find the formula on your own. And you can do it on your own, but this day and age, everything's online, you can figure that out. So it's really just about knowing the difference between the two. You wanna know how much you need in the future. You wanna know how much to save today to get to a set goal in the future, you can use the present value formula, or calculator. If you know what you have today, and you're just curious, what is $17,000 my grandpa gave me? What should it be worth in 30 years based on interest rate of around 8%, then that's future value. Right? Okay, so that's that opportunity cost. Toby, right? What's opportunity cost?
What your what your money could be worth.
That's future value money. Opportunity cost. You're gonna run into this concept in every class. Marketing is gonna talk about it. In the entrepreneurship class, Dave's gonna talk about it. What's your name again?
Braden.
Braden. What is opportunity cost?
I do not remember.
Anybody?
It's like what you're giving up for. Like with any decision you make, it's basically what you're giving up to do that decision.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the trade-off of what you're giving up to go with one particular decision. And I know college students is a really good example of opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost of you guys being here today?
Full-time
We
job.
could be doing something else.
Full-time job, all that income, in the oil field, I mean, it's not booming, but I'm sure you could probably get on somewhere, you probably make 70, 80 grand a year. You know, drive a truck, hauling parts, got some mechanics skills, you're worth even more, right? So you're giving up that to be here. That's another opportunity cost. Probably doesn't pertain to most of you, maybe Lance, if you have children or a spouse or, you know, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you're giving up time potentially spending with them to be here, right? To be in class. My opportunity cost for taking a job is, I have 2 kids under the age of 10. I get to see them all the time. That's the best part about being a college instructor. I get a lot of free time, so it's not, I'm not paying a huge cost, but I'm not with them every day, all day, right? I am at work. I am spending time here, so. That's another very interesting, or very important concept to really get, because every decision you make, you go to McDonald's. They got salads, they're not very good. They got hamburgers, they're not very good either, but they're slightly better than the salads. What do you buy? Well, what's the opportunity cost in terms of your health of buying the double bacon cheeseburger with extra bacon versus the salad with no dressing? What's the opportunity cost there? Health wise,
Life of your years of your life.
potential heart attack, years of your life, clogged arteries, belly, right? Like, so it applies to everything. Like opportunity cost is a general term across every part of life, but financially, it's really nice in finance because it's measurable, right? I don't like bringing myself into it. I certainly don't like talking about like my own investing accounts, but this week, opportunity costs, I sold out of one stock to go all in Nvidia. Because I really, and in my heart, I think I knew it was gonna sink, but in my brain, looking at the numbers, I felt there was a chance it was gonna go way up, gonna just like break the stock market. So I sold out of one stock, jumped into Nvidia. The one stock I sold out of is up 40% since I sold out. Nvidia is down about 18%. So you're looking at a 58% swing. So, it's a lot of money.
You're teaching us this class.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
Exactly. It's not 518 either, by the way. I don't know how that happened, but. You get the idea, right? Like, hey, in finance, it's easy because it's measurable. You can actually see, you calculate it out, okay, the decision I made, I chose to buy the Raptor. And spend the $1,500 a month on that payment. Instead of saving it, instead of putting it in my retirement. And I may not see the result of that opportunity cost now, but when I'm 65, my Raptor's not worth anything because it's got 280,000 miles on it, it barely runs. That $1,500 a month, had I saved it, compounded over 20 years, would be like $1 million, right? So that's what you think about, and that's why in finance, it's really important because you can start to see the effects of your decisions. You can measure the opportunity cost. All right, so those are the big 3. I know I keep saying that, future value, present value, opportunity cost of every decision you make. The next thing we're gonna talk about is tax credit versus tax deduction. Who wants to define what a tax deduction is? Let me pick on somebody in here. Hey Cody, on the Zoom call, can you hear me? Justin, can you hear me? Hetty.
I can hear you.
All right, Cody, I'm gonna ask you, can you give us a definition of a tax deduction?
It's it says an amount subtracted from adjusted gross income to arrive at taxable income.
All right, yeah, I mean, for just pure definition, that's what it is, but what is it? Like, what is it? Oh, you can see the PowerPoint, can't you?
Yep.
But what is it? Like, what, when you think of a tax deduction, like, how would you describe it?
Heck, I don't know. I'd have to look more.
Say what a tax deduction is.
Isn't it like, if you like, put money in like a charity, they like take it off your taxes?
Right. Yeah, so.
Interest on your house payment.
Right. Yeah, it's anything that you pay for or give money to that qualifies as a way to reduce your taxable income. And that's, I mean, that's basically what Cody said, but. Okay, so what are the parameters of a tax deduction? Well, you kind of just said it, but like, so subtracts. I'm really just trying to set this up to compare it to a tax credit, so you can see clearly the difference. Subtracts from AGI. AGI is adjusted gross income. How do you calculate that? What are the three things you need to calculate AGI? Like, what are the three main incomes that make up AGI?
That'd be like your earned investment and passive.
Yeah, earned income, passive income, investment income, right? That makes up, and then there was some other things like exclusion, so I looked up like exclusion is basically just no word for deduction. So anything that's called an exclusion is a deduction. So a tax deduction is subtracted from your AGI to,
Can you say gross too? Off your gross?
well, that's a adjusted gross, or well, the gross income is everything, and then,
Taxable income is a little different.
well, so you have gross income and then you have adjusted gross income. And adjusted is when you have like alimony payments,
So,
welfare payments, stuff that's not taxed at all. That stuff's subtracted out anyway, because it's not subject to taxes anyway.
right,
And it's not the same as a deduction, because it's still income. I don't like to get too deep into that, because honestly, I don't know a lot about it once you get into that kind of, that side of it. So just in general, we'll say, yeah, your adjusted gross income, that's your passive investment and earned income together. You subtract out, tax deductions are subtracted out from the AGI to calculate taxable income. Any good? Subtracts from AGI to calculate taxable income, right? So you have AGI, any deduction you qualify for, subtract it out, then you get to taxable income. Right, and it should lower it. We talked about itemized deductions versus the standard deduction, whichever one is higher is the one you use. The goal is to get your taxable income as low as possible, so therefore the amount you owe in taxes is as low as possible. All right, so then you have a tax credit. So tax deduction comes before you calculate taxes owed, right? It gets you to taxable income, then you calculate what you owe in taxes. Okay, tax credit comes after you calculate taxes owed. So you have your taxable income, you go through the marginal tax rates, which we're gonna go through in a second. You get the amount you owe in taxes. And then you get to apply tax credits. So a tax credit is a dollar for dollar. A dollar for dollar. There. For years I've bought it. Dollar for dollar, I don't know what to phrase that, dollar for dollar. Subtraction. Off of taxes owed. Then we can do an example. Make it simple, say you owe 4,500 in taxes, right? You calculate your. Taxes owed, you owe $4,500 at the end of the year, but you qualify for the American Opportunity Tuition Credit, which is 2,500. You get to take that 2,500 directly off of taxes owed. And now you only owe $2,000 in taxes. So the way I look at this, and I'm a numbers guy. A tax deduction is only gives you a reduction in the amount of taxes you owed. The amount of whatever tax bracket you fall in. So if you're a 20% tax bracket person, a tax deduction is only giving you a 20% break. On that, right? Because it's just subtracting that much out of your taxes, taxable income, which is taxed at 20%. Tax credit in this case was over 50% reduction in amount of taxes, right? You owed 45, but 2,500 of it gone. So for this reason, tax credits are almost always better. If you have a choice between the two, and college students do, because you can write off tuition, or you can take the tax credit. Tax credit is almost always better.
Interesting.
There are occasions when it's not. For instance. And we watched the video, this guy who does the video is a tax accountant, so he explains it better. There is instances when it's better to take the deduction because you don't get the full tax credit if you don't owe enough. Like if you didn't owe any taxes, the government's not cutting you a $2,500 check. You don't get anything, right? But if you took that deduction, then the government is cutting you a check for the difference, because that's what they owe you. Like, we'll watch the video. I'm trying to find it.
Okay, tax credits versus tax deductions. What's the difference and which one should you focus the most on? Now, of course, no one really wants to pay more than their fair share of taxes. And understanding the difference between tax deductions and tax credits can give you more confidence that you are not paying more than you need to pay in taxes. So I would guess that you probably know that claiming a tax deduction or a tax credit can help you reduce your overall taxable income. This is especially awesome if you make a lot of money and you don't want to pay or owe the IRS. And in this video, I'm going to explain the difference here so that you can spend your time wisely. Stay tuned.
If you ever got 1,000 likes, I got 1.3 for that. For him. All right, so before we forget this, we'll go back here. All right, does that kind of help? Kind of explain the difference? Pretty simple concept once you get it, but if the terminology's new to you and you're just, haven't spent a lot of time thinking of taxes or talking about them, it takes a while to kind of get it. Did you understand the refundable versus non-refundable? Everybody get that part? Kinda, sorta. Did you get it? QO, if it's non-refundable, you only get a tax credit up to it zeroes you out. And the IRS,
Refund.
the IRS is not cutting you a check for the difference, but there are some tax credits that they will. Child tax credit's one of them. So if you owe $3,800 in taxes, but you have 2 child tax credits, because you have 2 kids, they're 2,000 apiece, that's 4,000. They do cut you the $200 check difference. Again, we're not gonna dive too deep into this. I always try to remember this is a 1,000 level class, right? We're just skimming the surface. Go take, Mark Oxley or Tammy Sorensen's accounting classes. That's the deep dive. If you wanna know more, taxes interesting to you, which for some people it really is. Go take their class, they dive into this deep, and you really get tested on it, and you learn a lot about the differences. Our idea here, just so you know the difference, deduction versus a credit, what a deduction is, standard deduction versus itemized deductions, when to use which one, okay? All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna calculate taxes. So here in the United States, we use a marginal tax rate system. That is the idea that the first, I think it's like 9,500 is taxed, $9,500 of your income is taxed at one rate, right? And then anything over the 9,500 up to 36,000 is taxed at a slightly higher rate, higher percentage. And then, so the more you make, each step is the more you get taxed for that chunk of money that kind of fits into that bracket. And then once you calculate your marginal tax rate, then you can calculate your average tax rate. I think you're gonna be surprised at the difference. So, you hear people all the time complain, oh, God, I pay 24% taxes, I'm toiling 24% tax rate, that's BS. But that's just the marginal tax rate they fall into, because their income hits into that bracket, their top end income. But when they calculate their average tax, they're actually only paying about 16%. Because the first, 36,000, they were only paying 10%. So, we'll do one, so you'll see it. Okay, so this is also important to know. We use a marginal tax rate system to calculate taxes owed. But from that, you can calculate your actual average tax rate, what you actually paid overall for your income. And this is how we do it. Okay. We will say that John in downtown Casper, let's say Corey, Occasions by Corey, I don't know him, but I know he's got a business. Occasions by Corey, let's say, no, I can't, because that's a business, that changes everything. Let's say, we'll go back to John. John is a mechanic for Doyle's. And John made 84, let's go 93,500 adjusted gross income, or sorry, taxable income. Because we don't know all his deductions. We'll say his taxable income came out to be, God, Mark, are you kidding me? Hold on, I'll be right back. Alright, so we had 93,500. Taxable income, okay, so. Just go to this is 2020, we use, you know what, let's do 2024. Okay. All right, so. The first 10%, or sorry, the first 11,600 is only taxed at 10%, okay? So the first 11,600 times 0.01. What does that equal? That's an easy math you'll ever get. What is it? 1,160. Okay, so that's the first bracket, that's how much John owes in taxes. So now we have 11,601 to 47,150. So first we subtract that out, so we want to calculate that. 7,150. And we're doing that because we're trying to figure out how much needs to be calculated at the 12% rate, right? So we're just figuring out that amount of money. How much is that?
5658.
Subtract.
35,500.
35,549. Okay, so now that is taxed at 12%. You want to calculate that? 4265.98. 88, okay. Okay. So now. So the next tax bracket is 100,000 to 47,151, but John only made 93,500. So you take his 93,500. And you subtract it by the 47,151. How much money is that?
46,340.
46,339?
340.
349. Okay, and now you multiply that by the 22%.
796.
Okay. What's that?
10,000.
Oh, 10,000, geez. Okay, so you take the 10,196. Plus.
4265.
Right, 4265 and 88 cents.
And then plus 1160 at the low.
Yep. 1160. How much is that?
15,621 and 88 cents.
So John owes his tax liability based on his 93,500 of taxable income. This is not his salary, it's not his gross income. This is after he probably made around 120,000. Okay, and yeah, probably because he probably at that kind of money, he's probably maxing out his 401k. That's $19,000 reduction. He's got a mortgage probably, so he's getting some insurance there, whatever. Probably made around 115, 120. Deducted all his deductions, probably did not take the standard, because once you start making this kind of money, you're probably not taking the standard. Taxable income was calculated out to be 93.5. And then we just did the marginal tax rate using the marginal tax rate systems. First 10%, or sorry, the first 11,600 at 10%, the next 35,500, 12%, and then the remaining 47,000, sorry, 46,000 at 22%, okay? And you keep going. This, you know, if he had made 400,000 of taxable income, we would do the same thing with this and move on down. John then falls into the 22% tax bracket. He would tell people, I'm in the 22% tax bracket. 22%, America, they charge too much in taxes. But
So when you're figuring his taxes, do you actually figure up the first 11,000 at 10% and then the next? Or do you just stuff them into a 22% category and take that off as?
well, we'll show you. So he paid 15,000, or he owes,
Right, 621.88.
right? Assuming no tax credits. Assuming he has no tax credits, he probably does, but we'll assume he doesn't, so this is what he owes. Somebody do that, that'll tell you. This tells you the average tax rate. That's the marginal tax rate, that's the marginal tax bracket system in which he falls under the 22% tax bracket. Because that's the bracket his income falls in. But what is he actually paying?
16.7%.
So John actually only paid 16.7% of his income taxes. Which, on a global scale, is not terrible. Actually pretty good. That's important to know, it's important to be able to see that, and you can clearly see why, because the first, $47,000 of income is only taxed at 12%.
Versus the 22 on the other half.
Yeah, and the other half is at 22, exactly. So you, right, about splitting the middle is right around 16-17%. So that comes out to be the average. So when you hear people griping about paying in the 24, you know, they made, you know, I made $108,000 last year, I paid 24% taxes. They almost certainly did not. Unless they just didn't have
Unless
any
they're just
deductions.
cheated.
Yeah, or they had a bad account. What they probably paid was around 17%. Which isn't bad. This is the Donald Trump tax code system. I don't know a ton about exactly what he did, but I know we've always had the marginal tax rate system, but he worked it and got this passed while he was president, and it actually helps a lot of people. You'll hear otherwise, depending on if you're a Democrat or Republican, but in general, just from an objective point of view, what he did was good. He lowered the tax burden for most people, so. Any questions on this? So this should help you get your
Yeah, that helps.
homework question. Okay, so that's as far as we're gonna go today on the taxes. We're gonna finish up the PowerPoint next week. And so for the rest of the day, we're just, because I gotta get out of here a little bit early. So for about the next 20 minutes, we'll just finish these what is taxable worksheets. I do have extras if you don't have yours.
Let's see what we started.
Can I get one of those, please?
Yeah, and we kind of already done the table on the first page, but I've already done that. Yeah, it's the same one we did too.
Here's.
And then for those online, if you just want to continue working on this worksheet, it's the what is taxable worksheet.
2 years. I think.
And I'm pulling it up on the share right now. We've already gone through this table, this tax credit versus tax deduction table, so we'll just look at the rest of the questions. Do you still have your answers from them?
Yeah.
that. Okay, well, you say don't want you. Oh, oops. Yeah, possibly, but you gonna double that. But you don't hold it. So what do you think, I'm two. So that's why I should be serving that, you know. And probably the whole time, right? Sometimes I guess she's gonna do that, she's gonna be moving, because I maybe, you know, a year. Yeah, otherwise that's good for. Over here, let's say, it's just. Let's say, do you agree? Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. 1380. Over the 4-year period, we were, that's how much difference we would cost or cost of taking. But long term, this ends in only one out. Fine. Start off with 2 more years of school. Yeah. And then what I did. Spread. Said you get money back, the tax credit if you put it. Yeah, so.
Fine, they have a chart here of some of the tax credits. Might help you answer the question. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what the tax.
Yeah, I'm just.
I got some email yesterday. It was, said it was from outside of campus. But somebody nominated me for student of the year or something. Like, what the hell?
Been going to go for 3 weeks now. Probably a
It
scam.
must be some scam, yes, you know. But it was all of the campus email, it just said. I don't know what it said.
It wasn't your college union.
Well, it kind of was. Right here. It looks official.
Oh, yeah, it's the, Honor Society, yeah.
If somebody, who would nominate? Nobody even knows on here.
It's real, yeah.
It is?
I don't know Shelby Garner, but I know she's a real person.
Yeah, I said, congratulations, Lance. I'm like, what? Did I win the lottery?
Is this your first year back, right? That is kind of weird, because it's a 3.3 plus GPA.
Right, I haven't got no grades. I mean, just off quizzes and homework.
Does it sound like something you'd want to do, or just not really care? If you really want to do it, you should, email Shelby back.
Yeah.
She's a real person.
Oh.
You know, she's here on campus. It's strange that you get that. You take,
Was that how much you paid a year?
it's just an honor society.
Huh?
It's for an honor society.
Oh,
It's for join the,
honor society, well, that's definitely not me.
Do you do cars at the car show?
Oh, yeah.
You take yours? You do that one downtown on Second Street where they do every,
Oh, Yellowstone?
yeah,
Yeah, usually.
what is it?
What do I have?
Yeah.
Oh, we had a 40 Ford pickup that we usually
Oh, well,
show. But my wife wanted to sell it. I built it for her and that was part of
Mhm.
what she got.
Oh, right.
And she wanted to sell that. Cause she didn't think she was gonna show it on her own, you know, it was something we did together. But I have 2 race trucks. I have a Trailblazer and a 66 C10 Chevy pickup.
Can you show those too, or no?
Yeah, some different shows, they're not $100,000 car, so to speak, but they're 80, they just don't have paint on them.
Oh, okay.
You know, they've got all the motor and transmission and running gear and all high dollar stuff. I'd rather have that stuff top notch than a paint, because somebody's gonna come by and rub a belt buckle or something, and you're gonna go, what the hell, there goes 50 grand.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'd rather put money into motor than paint.
Oh, yeah, performance,
Right.
performance, how it shines, aesthetic.
Any day. For me anyway, you know, some people like the shiny stuff. And that's great.
I love the shiny stuff, but I would rather it run great first.
Yeah.
And then,
And that's my theory too.
then shine it up.
I'd rather not run 9 seconds and a quarter than 15.
Alright, so we'll go another couple of minutes and then we'll answer, I'll try to get you out of here at noon, I have to be somewhere at 12:15. So. Yeah, you done? Did you get them done? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess there was actually only 2 left, huh? We had,
Yeah, it was number 4 and 5. I think.
right, I forgot we did 2 and 3, 2 today. That's all right. Really look at the stock market today. Great. Coming back though, Nasdaq's up. Gold's up. Oil just keeps sinking. Down under 70 a barrel.
So this is certainly a pickup.
That's it?
Sure, no, yeah, they just, in 1940, you just don't find all metal trucks anymore. There were ranch trucks or work trucks and they just got beat up and left out in the field,
Rusted to
So-
nothing.
So to find one still intact that's 80 years old was amazing.
Did she sell
We sold it.
it? What'd you get, if you don't mind saying?
I got 35 out of it.
Seems low.
I had 16 in it, so
Good investment, I guess.
it was. I try to do that with all my vehicles. So we're not upside down in case something happens, just like this,
Mhm. See if it is hanging. All right, everybody got some answers for at least 4 and 5. I know if you weren't here on Tuesday, you didn't see the chart that we filled out, but that's all right. Okay, so number 4. Nevada is thinking about taking 4 years part-time to finish her master's instead of 2 years full-time. How would this influence her taxes? I get something.
Plus you're gonna have to pay more for tuition. Right? $7,800 a year, so 15,800.
Well, part-time's at a lower rate, but it still would be higher over time, so yeah, okay.
So that would give her a higher tuition tax rate over the course of 4 years.
It would, yeah.
Does a full-time student get more of a break than a part-time student?
Well, yes. That
Also,
was,
also just by saying on the deduction and credit side of things, she'd probably lose out a little bit. Doing part-time.
yeah, so the big one, and I thought the slideshow actually talked about it. I meant to bring it up, but I didn't see it there, so it must not have. The American Opportunity Tax Credit, the one we talked about, the $2,500 one, only applies to full-time students. So she would not be eligible for that if she's only going part-time. Oh, wait, no, sorry. So that one only applies to undergrad work. Yeah, for undergraduate.
Graduate.
So she's going to graduate school, so she's not eligible for that one. But then there's the lifetime learning credit. But that is for graduate students. Okay, so I was like totally wrong. So taking twice as long to finish the degree potentially doubles the advantage from that tax benefit. So by her going part-time 4 years instead of full-time 2 years, she gets 4 years of getting the lifetime learning credit. So it is smart. I was completely wrong. So like, that's a big deal, right? I mean, that's just something you wouldn't think about unless you knew to think about it. Like, if you go to grad school, you're probably like, God, I just gotta get this out of the way, man. I want this done, I want to move on with my life. But there are some advantages to taking it slow. Like, apparently, as long as you're in school for at least half time, you're eligible for the lifetime learning credit. Let's see what kind of how much that is, because I don't even know. Lifetime learning credit is how much? What is the maximum? So you can get up to 2,000. So there's essentially gonna get $4,000 more in tax raise than if she'd have gone for 2 years. So that's a good one. Okay, number 5, children can be very expensive. Yes, they can. Should children / dependents warrant tax breaks? Should you get tax breaks for kids? Did you put
I said, yeah,
why?
but they're expensive. It's hard enough to pay taxes.
Right.
Well, and the children's tax credit is refundable, so if you don't know as much taxes as you're getting for that tax credit, then you're gonna get a refund check.
Right, yeah. And the child tax credit, it is fully refundable, so you get that money no matter what. Yeah, so the whole idea of tax breaks, tax credits, tax deductions is, it's just the general cost of living, right? Like, they can't tax you. That's why you get the standard deduction of 14,600, right? Because the government knows you're gonna spend at least that on gas to get to work, food to live. Right, just the general necessities to exist, so they're willing to give you that much tax free every year. Throw in kids. And then you gotta raise the kids gotta live, they've gotta eat. You know, they need all sorts of crazy stuff, just as a general way of living. So the answer is yes, and they should absolutely get tax breaks. And what kind of tax breaks or tax deductions that you feel is most appropriate? Lance brought up the child tax credit. So if you have at least, I mean, I know people with 5 kids that barely make any money, and the tax season for them is like Christmas. And they get refunds like 14, 18,000 bucks. And it's just like this windfall cash. They're living on welfare, on food stamps, they barely make any money. But comes tax season, it's just like, it's the greatest time of year.
Christmas time.
And that's one of the, that's like a.
Why not?
Not tenured yet. Once I'm tenured, I can say whatever I want. And did anybody come up with any other ones besides just the child tax credit? Any other deductions that are out there specifically for children? I don't know of any other tax credits. I have 2 kids, I said that, so we get the tax credit every year. I'm trying to think of some other just specific childcare. Wyoming allows up to 4,000, I think, yeah, 4,000 a year deduction to childcare. I take my son to daycare. And I pay a lot more than 4,000, but I do get at least a $4,000. I can get that much tax deduction from my tax income. So you get that, right?
That's expensive.
Well, you go down to Denver, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live down in Denver, and their daughter now is in elementary, so they don't pay anything, but for the first 5 years, they're paying $1,800 a month for childcare. And they were only getting $5,000 tax deduction back. They're paying almost over $20,000. They're only getting $5,000 of that back as it has a deduction, not even a credit, it's a deduction, so they're only getting 20%-ish of the 5,000. So you see, kids could be real expensive. That would be one that I would say, if I were king and could call the shots, I would give people much higher tax deductions for childcare because it is so expensive. Yeah. My son goes to the ECLC here on Casper College on campus. It's probably the best in town. It's also one of the cheapest. I still pay $600 a month. So I'm still paying $7,200 a year. So I don't even get all that back as a deduction. All right, thanks for showing up, everybody. We'll see you next week. We'll continue taxes. Thanks, everybody on the Zoom call.